That 9th to 17th, 18th range. 4 seed is the best guess. But again, it wouldn't surprise you, given that this is Gonzaga, if, like, those guys just get a little bit better, Gonzaga as a team gets a little bit better, and they emerge as, like, the WCC winner and an eventual 3 seed. But I would be a little surprised if they can go above a 3 this year.
St. Mary's in the top 10 in KenPom. I believe they have 3 losses to this point as well, if I remember correctly. Is it 3? Or is it 5?
4.
4, okay. 4. Top 10 in KenPom, and right now the biggest threat to Gonzaga not being perfect once again in the WCC. Like, what do you make of this St. Mary's team, and how are they different than years past? And do you think this is the best opportunity they've had in a long time to usurp the Gonzaga Bulldogs?
I think this is for sure the best opportunity they've had in a long time. I mean, you look at it historically, and this is almost certainly the best St. Mary's team that's ever been. The only serious contenders are maybe like that Omar Samhan team, the Sweet 16 group, or the 2016-17 team that lost to Lauri Markkanen in the round of 32. But the key is their defense. Jordan Sperber at Hoop Vision had a great breakdown of it, of how they make more teams than any, or they give up, I think his stat was they give up more jumpers off the dribble, like mid-range jumpers on pick and rolls, than any other team in America. But that's intentional. Like, they don't really let you get to the rim despite not having a great rim protector, and they funnel you off the three-point line. They are a really, really freaking hard defense to crack, because if you don't get off a good shot, they're going to rebound it. They're number 2 in America in defensive rebounding rate. They force more turnovers than they have in a long time. If you're if you're an offense that's just like not prepared to sit it out for a bit and work for your shot and try your best to get to the free throw line or an open 3, you are really going to struggle against these guys. I mean, the 2 of the losses are not very pretty, frankly. Like, Colorado State at home is a little bad. Washington on a neutral court was disappointing, but they have yet to lose a game by more than 5 points. And that 5-point loss was on the road to Houston. And that's about the most impressive road loss you can get this year.
Yeah.
So, and I think their resume as a whole is I feel very confidently they will be undervalued come Selection Sunday, because the teams on the resume that are good wins do not pop off the page to non-obsessives as good basketball wins. So you look at, like, they've beaten Oral Roberts, who's going to win the Summit League. They've beaten North Texas, who's now edging ahead of UAB for second in a really good Conference USA. They beat Vandy on a neutral court. That's not like a great win, but Vandy's top 100. They beat San Diego State on a neutral court. Great win. Beat Santa Clara on the road. If they can beat Gonzaga at least once, it's going to be frustrating, because you can kind of already see this team still being 9th in KenPom, but like a 6 seed. But even so, I mean, they're legitimate. I think that if we lived in an era where the net ranking didn't exist, they would be hurt a lot. But the net rated is going to be their savior, and is going to keep them out of being, like, I feel like if we had the RPI, they'd be a 9 seed or something. So they're going to get rewarded in some fashion for this season. To answer the question of making a deep tourney run, it's all based on just who you draw and, like, whether you shot well that day or not. I would say it is encouraging when you run the stats on Bart Torvik's site. 2 of their 5 most common comparisons, when you go by just offense and defense, not get too into the weeds, are 2014 Florida, Final Four team, and 2018 Michigan, national title runner-up.
Wow.
Of their 9 most similar teams, all but 3, all but 1 at least made the round of 32, and 6 of the 9 went to the Sweet 16 or further. So that kind of gives you an indication of what we're looking at here. They're really good.
What would they have to do from here on to get a 3 seed?
Win out.
So they'd have to win out,
honestly,
basically.
I think I think they'd either have to win out in the 1 losses like Gonzaga on the road, or they'd have to win out, period. And I think that the latter is probably more likely the case, because at that point, if you are 27-4, 16-0 in conference, you've beaten Gonzaga twice, which is crazy. That does not happen. You have swept BYU, you swept Santa Clara, you swept a lot of good teams. You've beaten San Diego State in a neutral, and you've beaten Oral Roberts in North Texas. I mean, at that point, they'd have like 9 quadrant 1 and 2 wins. Pretty good freaking resume. So at that point, I think they'd be in contention for a 3 seed. But it's unlikely they're going to win out, which is fine. But even if they go 14-2, I would imagine that would set them up in line for like a 5 or a 6.
Interesting. But like you said, not a death sentence for St. Mary's if that's where they're at, because history is kind to teams that have played and performed to like them to this point. It's pretty good company that they found themselves in.
I want to go ahead and get out in front of a comparison that people are going to make if they go far, is that people are going to say this team looks a lot like Butler. And I would hear that out a little bit because Butler is also a defensive first squad, which people kind of forget now that Brad Stevens is so famous for all the offensive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But they were great defensively first, like an elite defensive squad. I don't think.
So are we talking about the Shelvin Mack, Gordon Hayward Butler teams? Is that
Shelvin Mack, Gordon Hayward? What was that guy's name? Matt Howard, the center with the weird socks.
Yes.
Really great to be able to remember that. That's how you know your brain is just purely warped as a human.
Mm-hmm. Matt Howard, I like it. Kevin Pittsnoggle.
Pittsnoggle's a good one. I think that's a good comparison. And a team that I would like for people to investigate to remind themselves of somebody is like 2014-15 Utah with DeLon Wright on the roster. That team that pushed Duke to the brink in the Sweet 16. That's they give me that sort of vibe of like, you're going to have a heck of a time getting them out of the tournament if you draw them.
I like it. Miss DeLon Wright in Atlanta. He was a great player. I think the Wizards off on when he's just not playing is a difference between them being a playing team and not. So still playing great in the NBA. Shelvin Mack had a pretty good